Hello there. I'm just going to move this down a little bit so we can see more of what's going on. There we are. Splendid. That's about where it was yesterday, which is good. I'm just going to quickly as well type into the live chat so that people can respond live with their perfume request. So just bear with me while I do that. There we go. So that's all pretty well set up. Splendid. Looks good. Looks good. Well, I'll start messing around with things now. So welcome to Scented Souvenirs. This is the third session of Scented Souvenirs that I'm delivering as part of ArtWaves Festival over this weekend. I'm here until midday today, well, midday this morning, and then from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock this afternoon. So Scented Souvenirs is a project that sees me creating perfumes based on people's 3 words that they have about holidays. So participants give me 3 words to do with holidays, and then I transform those 3 words into perfumes. These are some perfumes that I created yesterday based on that particular premise, and I'll be doing more of the same today. I have already got some participants that have sent in their 3 words before the live sessions, so I've already got something like 5 people today, which is great. They'll be getting created. Well, 5 people this session, actually, 10 people today overall, so that's good. We'll start at 10:15 with the first perfume. We're going to wait until exactly the right time, because I know people that I'm making the perfumes for might want to see the perfumes being made, so I'll wait until those the exact sort of increments. But we will start at 10:15 today in terms of the first perfume getting made, but we've got 10 minutes before that, so if anybody wants to get involved with the live chat, they can ask me to make a perfume based on their own 3 words about holidays, or they can ask me anything that they like. This project was going to be sort of staged in Bridlington as part of ArtWaves Festival last May. Of course, because of coronavirus, that hasn't happened. So we are delivering it online, which is great. One of the things about physical festivals that doesn't necessarily happen online is that you get to talk to people, not necessarily just about your own work, but also about just anything really. There's that kind of interaction, conversations that happen that don't have much to do with what you're actually there for, but they all sort of are part of the sort of festival experience. And I'm fully sort of happy to sort of try and emulate that here today. So just feel free to ask me sort of anything you like, really. Obviously we can talk about perfumes and art and stuff like that, but anything that comes to your head, happy to have a quick chat. So we've still got 10 minutes to go until the first perfume is going to get made today, providing nobody gets in touch with a perfume of their own. This is the the studio that I'm working in today, I've got a selection of oils that I'm going to use to make the perfumes. Got bottles, got washi tapes, and sort of some visual embellishments. Of course, the theme is holidays. As such, we've got some buckets and spades. We've got a holiday sort of vibe on this with the t-shirt. We've got this sort of painting here that I've made as a bit of background, really, to the performance. We've it's a strange painting because obviously I painted it as a background piece. It was always going to be something that was just in the background, which isn't necessarily how I paint, if I ever do paint. It's something that's auxiliary, really. It doesn't need to be there. So it's got quite a lot of an expanse of sort of blue. Just because otherwise, they'd be too sort of complicated in the background and maybe distracting. So it was kind of a weird painting to paint, because I was sort of always aware that it didn't need to sort of be overly detailed and stuff like that. But nevertheless, it's good. I'm glad that something is in the background there. Happy with that. The oils that I've got here that I just mentioned briefly, they are a combination of essential oils and fragrance oils. I've got a fair few of them, probably about 15 in total, so should have enough there to make sort of varied perfumes based on the varied responses that I'm going to get. We have essential oils and fragrance oils. The difference, of course, being that essential oils are natural oils, and fragrance oils are synthetic. So if you had a essential oil that was lemon, that would be an oil that was made using lemons physically, either through pressing or steaming, in order to extract the scent, the oil, and therefore the scent of lemon. And if it was a fragrance oil lemon, it would be a synthetic compound that's made in a lab that smells like lemon but isn't actually including of any lemons. So intuitively you might think, well, why do you use fragrance oil? Surely essential oils are the way to go. And generally I do use more essential oils than fragrance oils, has to be said. But there are advantages to using fragrance oils. For one thing, there are certain things that don't exist in nature that you can only get through fragrance oils. So if you see things like gingerbread or sea breeze, that kind of thing, or a summer fragrance, general sort of fragrance names, chances are they're almost certainly made synthetically. And what that does is it means that you've got a much wider sort of scope of materials to use, which is very useful for making sort of quite intricate, more complex sort of fragrances. Cost implications are obviously another thing as well. Essential oils are expensive, or they can be expensive. The process is difficult, slow sometimes. Rose is a good example of that, because it takes a lot of petals and a very slow process in order to make a rose absolute or essential oil. And therefore it's expensive. Something like this, if this was rose and if it was 10 mil, this is 10 mil, and if this was rose, it would cost around 40 to 50 pounds if it was an essential oil. If it's a fragrance oil, it might only cost a couple of pounds. So there's obviously a huge cost implication. It's still important to try and find good quality fragrance oils from sustainable sources, which is what I try to do. There's another reason why you would potentially use fragrance oils, and that's the sort of ethical sort of reasons, that being you have fragrances like musks, amber, this kind of thing, where originally they were created using animal sort of fluids or fats, which isn't practiced or isn't purchased certainly anymore. All of my oils don't have any of that kind of thing going on. So that's kind of why you might use fragrance oils over essential oils. Perfectly sort of valid to use fragrance oils, especially good quality fragrance oils. A combination of both seems to be a bit of an industry standard as well. So that's what I practice too. Let's pop the oils back, ready for the first perfume. It's 12 minutes past 10 now on the 7th of March, so we're not too far away from making the first perfume. Got a fair few to get through today. Most participants got in touch through Facebook, I believe, or there was an online form on my website where people could submit their 3 words. I think that's still up actually, so if anybody wants to submit their 3 words, I could make the perfume during the second session. michaelbukowski.com, and on the homepage there's a link to this project. The perfumes that we're going to make today, they're going to be a combination of the fragrance oils and the essential oils. Probably going to make about 4, 5 or 6 of these oils per perfume, and they're going to be combined with perfumer's alcohol, which you can see there. Perfumer's alcohol being a relatively industry standard dilution to use. It's specially formulated for perfume making and for fragrances, so it's kind to the skin. It dilutes effectively and ensures an evenly sort of balanced fragrance. You can also use oil, any sort of oil based, kind of any oil really, but generally it is sweet almond oil that I use if I'm making oil-based perfumes. Because that's unscented or largely unscented oil, so it just carries the scent effectively. Generally speaking, if you've got a perfume and you find that it's a spray perfume like this here, so just sprays, generally that's almost certainly going to be made using alcohol, not using perfume as alcohol. If you find a perfume that's got more like a pipette like that, chances are that that's oil based. It's not an absolute hard and fast rule, but that's generally the situation. With these responses, I'm trying to be as spontaneous as possible, so I've not really looked at any of the responses that I've received before making the perfume, because I want to retain that sort of thinking on my feet, sort of quick fire perfume making, which is what the project was going to be all about to begin with. It is now 1:15. So I am going to start creating the first perfume, and the first participant of the day is from Ellen from ArtWaves. Hi Ellen, if you're watching, and thank you for your help with ArtWaves so far. You're one of the organisers, one of the social media, I believe, is your sort of forte. I might be wrong on that, but it certainly seems to be the case. Hello, if you're watching. Thank you to ArtWaves in general for putting on this festival. It's been really well organised actually, and it's been great to actually deliver the festival after the uncertainty of last year. So thanks very much for that. Ellen, your responses to 3 words about holidays were sun cream and blue skies. So sun cream and blue skies, 3 words there to do with holidays. So how am I going to make a perfume based on those 3 words? Well, it's all about sort of thinking about those 3 words and how they make me feel, what they remind me of, the experiences I've had, with those particular words. Obviously, holidays comes to mind, especially with sun cream and blue skies as well. So, how are we going to do this? Obviously, sun cream. Intuitively, you think of sun cream. well, it's got some ingredients in it. Maybe we could sort of utilize those ingredients. Or you could think, how does sun cream make me feel? Like, why would I be wearing sun cream? And you'd be wearing it because you're in the sun. So maybe we could create something to do more with the sort of heat and the sun that the sun cream sort of represents. And blue skies, I always think with blue sky, with something like that, it's nice to sort of think about sort of quite crisp sort of fragrances that are sort of, I don't know, I guess to do with, again, to do with heat really, to do with the hot weather. So I wonder if we can sort of run with that. It's a slightly abstract interpretation of Ellen's response, but the idea of being in hot weather certainly sort of is what I'm reminded of when I think of sun cream and blue skies. So let's run with that. Let's go with that. So hot weather, you sort of think about, let's have a look. Well, there's things like tropical sort of fragrances like coconut, where, you know, you're in sort of a hot environment. So maybe we could use that. We've got things like sweet orange, which sort of feels quite synonymous with being on a holiday, being in a hot sort of climate. So let's use that as well. And as things like lemon also do that, don't they? So let's pop the lemon down as well. Yeah, I quite like the idea of it being quite more evocative of sort of an experience rather than just thinking about the words individually. Try and think about them all as sort of a collection, I guess. So let's think about one more. I'm going to use Whole Leaf. Whole Leaf is a very crisp sort of smell. It's quite a woody. It's like a light woody smell. It's kind of, I guess it's a bit evocative of something like driftwood or sort of pier frontages. Yeah, so it's a sort of, it's quite a, I don't use it all that often, Whole Leaf, but it's kind of like a woody sort of fragrance which is extracted from flowers in China. The coconut is coconut, as you'd expect. Coconut smelling fragrance. It's a fragrance oil. I've got 3 essential oils and 1 fragrance oil here. So I've got Whole Leaf to sort of represent the kind of the idea of being near the sea specifically. We've got coconut, which is evocative of the idea of a hot climate. And then we've got sweet orange and lemon, which also sort of have those sort of, you know, are also evocative of being in sort of a hot sort of climate with blue skies, etc. So they're the perfumes that they're the fragrances that I'm going to use. And it's all about trying to evoke being somewhere hot based on Ellen's sun cream and blue skies, 3 words that she gave me. So what we're going to do to make the perfume, I just realised I've not really explained how to make this perfume. All the perfumes we're going to make today are going to be eau de toilette fragrances. So that basically means they're going to comprise 5% of fragrant oils and 95% of perfumers' alcohol. And that dilution roughly equates to what an eau de toilette is. I say roughly because the industry standard isn't nailed down or anything like that. Some people think of it as being a bit less than 5 or a bit more than 5, but I tend to go with around about 5%. Seems to be the easiest thing. So it's all about trying to work out that 5%, and it's a 30ml bottle, so a 30ml eau de toilette we're going to make today, for each perfume, for each participant. And how we're going to make or work out that 5% is we're going to weigh the oils when we pop them in the bottle. And basically, I've done all this sort of work previous, and it's all about putting 1.1 grams of oil into the bottle. And we're going to do that simply by sort of decantering drops directly into the bottle until it gets to 1.1, in which case it's around about 5%. So let's do it. We've got the Whole Leaf first, the sort of outdoor, sort of light woody sort of scent. And from yesterday, it seemed like 5 drops of each sort of fragrant oil seemed to get me near to 1.1. 5. But some oils are a lot thicker than others. Some oils are very, very thin coming out of the bottle. So it's not a hard and fast rule to have just 5 drops of each note, 5 drops of each fragrant oil. For 5 of the coconut. I just mentioned their notes, and I'll explain a bit more about notes in a minute once I've finished making this perfume. But it's basically a building block sort of the perfume making process. Sweet orange is next. And finally the lemon. More or less 1.1, a little bit less than 1.1, but that's okay. That is the fragrant oils all in the bottle. So now essentially that needs diluting. I'll just pop these here for now. It needs diluting, of course, with the perfume as alcohol. So here we go. It's 30 ml of perfume as alcohol going in. Here it goes, 30 ml. Easy enough. So that is the perfume effectively made for Ellen there. It is a combination of whole leaf, coconut, lemon and orange to evoke the idea of sun cream and blue skies. So quite a sort of a fragrance that reminds you of being in a warm climate, reminds you of being outdoors, reminds you of being on holiday. Quite a, I guess, in a way generic in terms of how I thought about it, but also I think it's quite nice sometimes to think about think about all 3 of the words together rather than trying to sort of do them individually. But I think that's a great little fragrance actually. Quite happy with my choices there. And thank you, Ellen, of course, for your response. What I'm going to do now, as I did with all of the ones yesterday, is I'm going to write on the bottle what I put in there, and also the name of the participant. Sweet orange. Thank you very much, Ellen, for your contribution there. Here is your perfume. As I said yesterday, I'm going to try and potentially gift these perfumes eventually when it feels a bit sort of safer perhaps to do so. I do sort of see this particular project and some of the other projects too as something of a collaborative effort between me and the participants, because obviously they wouldn't exist without the participants. The whole project wouldn't be able to function without the participants. So very much see these things as collaborative, and as such I would like to sort of gift these perfumes to the participants when appropriate, if they want them, of course. They don't have to have them. But there we go. So that's the first one done today. The next perfume will be created at 10:30, so we've got 5 minutes to go until the next perfume is going to get made. If anybody has any questions or thoughts, then they feel free to drop me a quick message on the live chat. Yeah, great stuff. I don't think we had we didn't have sun cream yesterday as a or blue skies actually as a response. It's interesting the amount of varied responses that I received for this project. Yeah, lots of people, different interpretations of holidays and what holidays mean to people. when I was making that perfume, then of course I mentioned notes. I said that the notes were important sort of building blocks of perfume making. So basically, each perfume contains top notes, middle notes, and base notes. And when you spray a perfume, the first thing that you smell is the top notes, and then that's followed by the middle notes, and then that's followed by the base notes. So the top notes give a first impression of the perfume. The middle notes sort of bridge the top and bottom, and then the base notes give you a lasting impression of the perfume. And these stand here. The top notes are at the top here, the middle notes are in the middle, and the base notes are at the bottom. So it helps me sort of organise the fragrances so that I know sort of what I need to find. With that particular example, I had the top notes and the base. I got the top notes and the middle notes quite quickly, and the base note was what I was sort of searching for at the end there. So that's a bit of a rundown, a bit of an introduction to process. Of course, before coronavirus hit, I did deliver perfume making workshops around the UK, and you know, people could. I basically gave a working demonstration of how to make an eau de toilette, and then people sort of made one sort of under my sort of supervision and support. Great little sessions. Hopefully we'll get on with more perfume making workshops when it's safe to do so, because I really enjoyed delivering them. I was going to say I've delivered one or two online. I've delivered one or two through video. Of course, that was great. I really enjoyed doing those, but obviously it's not the same as being able to deliver them in person. So I think the last one I delivered was in October, just in between those sort of two lockdowns that we had. And then before that, I think I delivered one in March last year. So I've only delivered two in a year, whereas previously I was delivering about 2 a month. So obviously it's quite different. I've had to sort of not really do all that much perfume making workshops, but hopefully that'll be back soon. We are nearly at 10:30 now. I'll wait until exactly 10:30 because I don't want the participant to sort of miss anything if they are sort of watching live. So I'll just wait a little bit longer. I've popped the sort of session on Facebook as well. And sometimes people sort of live chat on Facebook instead of live chatting in the chat bar, which is fine. But I'm just going to make sure that hasn't happened. Just don't want to miss anything out or anybody out. No, that hasn't happened. So it's now 10:30. Fab. We are going to make the second perfume of the day, and we are going to make it for this is from a participant called Elizabeth Heather Engel, I believe. Now I don't know you particularly well, Elizabeth, but I believe you got in touch via my website, and I believe it was because you saw the project through Frontier's newsletter. Frontier is an arts initiative that me and my wife organise, and it looked like through the emails you called yourself Heather rather than Elizabeth, so I'm going to call you Heather if that's okay. Heather, your three responses, your three words were sun, sea and sand. A classic there, sun, sea and sand, which we need to think about in order to create the perfume for you, Heather. So sun, sea and sand, obviously that's very evocative of beaches, of being on a beach holiday. So again, it's kind of a bit like Ellen's perfume previously. Thinking about all three of those words together rather than individually makes for a more sort of complete sort of picture of holidays. Sun, of course, being very hot, so we could go through the process with Ellen's again, where we have oils that remind you of the heat and being in a hot sort of climate. We'll put, so that being the case, we'll pop some sort of quite fruity sort of fragrances down, and maybe we'll use them, maybe we won't. So we've got sweet orange, grapefruit, and lemon to tangerine as well. So it's slightly, I guess, kind of sort of more tropical sort of fragrances compared to like more conventional sort of fruity fragrances. Something like tangerine, grapefruit, just has a slightly more tropical sort of feel to it. Sea and sand, some sea and sand. So we have got quite a generic actually little vial here that's got a fragrance called Summer Fresh fragrance, and it's a great fragrance. It's clean, kind of sort of crisp sort of smelling fragrance, kind of quite light, a little bit fruity as well, so it would go well with the fruits that we've got here. Yeah, interesting. So we've got those. Let's think. So the fruity fragrances are very much the top notes, and the Summer Fresh is more like a middle note. So we sort of need to get a base note going. Something feels like we might be using that whole leaf again, unless we can find something a bit different. Maybe patchouli wouldn't go amiss. It would certainly go nicely with the fruity fragrances if you're thinking about the perfume as a whole. Patchouli is quite an earthy sort of scent, but it does evoke sort of the outdoors. It's got a little bit of spice to it, so a little bit of a kick to it. I wonder if that's going to be more evocative of heat and being outside. So intuitively, what we've got here then is patchouli, summer fragrance, sweet orange, grapefruit, tangerine, and lemon. I'm going to remove the orange just because we've already got quite a lot of fragrances there. We don't need to have another fruity fragrance, I don't think. Tangerine, grapefruit, and lemon being sort of evocative of hot tropical climates, summer fragrance, sort of bridging the idea of some sea and sand, and patchouli having that sort of outdoor kind of summery sort of scent to it. I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to go with these fragrances. So as before, we're going to measure out 1.1 grams of fragrance in order to achieve an eau de toilette. And we'll start with the base note, which is patchouli. This is the note that you'll smell last, effectively, when you spray the fragrance, the perfume. And it's 5 drops again of each one. The patchouli is quite a thick fragrance, which means that it's a little bit heavier than some of the other fragrances. The summer fresh fragrance is next, the middle note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh. Tangerine. I'm going to have 5 drops of tangerine. Five of grapefruit. And of course 5 of lemon. Perfect. And then we top it up and dilute things with the perfumer's alcohol, of course. Perfumer's alcohol going into the bottle. tighten the bottle. Give it a quick shake. I don't think I explained this with the first perfume I made, but it's useful to give. Well, it's important to give the perfumes about a 2-minute shake normally. Although I'm not going to give it a 2-minute shake for the purposes of this demonstration. I'll give them a good shake off camera because let's face it, it's quite boring. But also, it kind of affects how I talk a bit. So I think I sort of the vocal cords sort of vibrate a little bit more than they should. So a quick shake, and as before, I'm going to pop a label on for Heather's perfume. And pop the ingredients on as well. Splendid. So that is the second perfume made for today. And that can just go there. We've got a fair complement of perfumes there now. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Heather, for your response online. That is the third one, the second one created. The third one is going to commence at 2:45. So 11:15 is the next perfumes schedule. So we'll wait for another 5-6 minutes for that. Yeah. Sunset and Sand, of course, been a classic response. Some great response. They've all been really good responses. I've enjoyed sort of creating a perfume for each response. Really, they've been varied enough for me to be a bit challenged by them. You know, it's not. I don't think anybody's provided exactly the same response. So that's really good. That's really interesting. Yeah, good. I'll just make sure again that there's no one on the Facebook. I believe it went off just a minute ago. So let's take a look. It did go off, but I don't think anybody actually asked me anything. I think it was just a yeah, there wasn't anything in particular. Anyway, that is yeah. So in 5 minutes' time, we have the next perfume going to get made. As before, I'll just reorganize my my materials. So that I don't lose anything or forget where things are. We'll pop the next bottle ready. We have a live chat here from Sharon Moss-Beck, who says, hello Sharon, do you have lots of essential oils? Are there any more you'd like to own? I do have lots of essential oils. I think I have about 60 essential oils altogether. These are most of them, but I have some others as well. Any that I'd like to own? Yes, the expensive ones. Mostly are the ones that I want to own. There are ones that are really expensive because the process, as I said earlier, is very difficult and very slow sometimes. So I'd like to get a really good sort of quality sort of rose and jasmine sort of absolutes, essential oils, because I've never sort of I've had one where I think it was about £15 for like a 2 ml vial of, I think it was a rose oil, but it was a diluted rose oil, so it wasn't quite an essential oil. It was like a diluted essential oil, and it was a very sort of kind of it was quite a complex but quite subtle sort of fragrance. It felt like it had a lot of stuff going on in there, and that's one of the nice things about essential oils in general, is that they are quite a complex concoction. They almost contain different scents within them, you know, they're that complex. So I'd like to own sort of rose jasmine sort of oils, just so that I could sort of see how complex, or smell how complex that they are, as well as, you know, the fact that they would be, you know, really, really nice fragrances, I assume. So yeah, expensive ones is the answer to the question. There was one that was, I think, a tomato essential oil, which I can imagine being a very difficult process, because they're, you know, they are quite a watery food anyway. So it would be a slow process to extract I assume it would be a slow process to extract the oils from a tomato, and that's why that one was expensive too. So yeah, kind of those three, I think, are ones that I've come across that I know sort of exist, and I know that are expensive, that I've never been able to get my hands on because of that. So yeah, rose, jasmine, tomato. Yeah, they're the three that I'd like to get my hands on the most. I probably wouldn't even use them, is the thing, though, because they'd be so expensive that I wouldn't really want to waste them, as it were. I want to sort of retain them, which isn't really particularly useful, but nevertheless, that's probably what I do. So thanks very much, Sharon, for your question. And we've got another 1 minute to go until the next perfume is getting made. So that should be good. We've got these tapes here, which I intended to use during the process of making the perfumes, but actually it's quite a quick fire sort of process, where I've made one and then I ought to be moving on to the second one. So I've not got around to using the washi tapes yet, but I use these quite extensively in my perfume making work for visual embellishment, because they're really versatile. They sort of offer a sort of pop of colour quite quickly. You know, you can just stick a bit of washi tape to the perfumes bottles, and you know, you've got a visual sort of embellishment, which is really cool. And there's lots of different styles and types, which it's very much my sort of medium of choice when I think about decorating bottles these days. It is now 10:45 a.m. on the 7th of March, and that means that we are going to make the third perfume of this session. So, bottle here, we have Jamie Hall, of all people, is going to be the next participant. Hello, Jamie, if you're watching. I know Jamie well from my days of living in Chester. I think actually I first met him after I'd moved out of Chester, I think. Well, that might not be true. But anyway, hi, Jamie. Hope you're doing well. Jamie's response has been as follows. It's paella, sangria, and sea. So quite foodie, quite drinky, quite sea. We are going to take those three words and think about the perfume that we're going to make. Obviously, with paella and sangria, I mean, obviously food and drink. So we can think about the different sort of flavors and different ingredients within paella sangria. I guess that sangria is kind of quite fruity, and paella's kind of quite, well, not spicy as such, but quite herby, isn't it, I think? So there's that to think about. And then the sea, of course, as well. So we can sort of think about again, it's kind of as with the first two perfumes that I made today. It's kind of about thinking about all three of those words together to sort of make a coherent sort of fragrance. Obviously, with those three words, you can almost imagine eating paella, drinking sangria by the sea. You know, that's very much a very real thing that you can do on a holiday. So I can either think about it quite literally and think about, well, we'll put all those ingredients into the bottle, or we could think about how that kind of experience makes you feel. So, you know, how would you feel? How would you exist in that particular moment? And I imagine you'd be relaxed, happy, joyous, you know, all those kind of things. So do I be literal and put sort of ingredients into the bottle, or do I be a little bit more abstract and think about how those three words make you feel? I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. I'll have a quick drink, and I think I'm going to go for the slightly more literal sort of route, just because I know that I have quite a lot of ingredients here that are quite relevant to the food and drink that Jamie has provided there. I'm looking for that sweet orange again. So I've got sweet orange, and I know I've got some slightly more. I'm trying to look for some slightly more earthy, slightly more herby sort of smells to sort of evoke the idea of eating and drinking, really, I suppose. Mandarin would be quite nice. It's quite a fruity scent. Yeah, I think I'll use the mandarin in lieu of the sweet orange. I know for a fact that I've got some. We've got rosemary. I know that's not quite in keeping with the sangria the paella. Or is it? It might be. But it's quite a herbally sort of scent, and it's kind of evocative of eating outside. I think is rosemary. I guess because you've got the sort of scent of rosemary exists very much outside as well as on sort of dishes. Let's have another look. Pimento berry. That's a bit of a peppery sort of scent. So we do have black pepper, of course, which I use quite extensively generally. Yeah, in fact, let's definitely get some black pepper. I think that will work well. And then I think we're going to go for patchouli again for the base note, just because it has that sort of earthy sort of scent to it, which is kind of evocative of being outside, I think. We've also got cumin seed from Egypt, which again has got quite a sort of spicy, kind of nutty almost sort of scent, which is again evocative of eating and drinking. So we've got 5 scents altogether. We haven't got anything for the sea specifically. Does that matter if we haven't got anything for the sea specifically? I'll tell you what, we'll use a bit of that sort of a bit of a sea breeze fragrance oil, just to give a little bit of a flavour of the sea. So with Jamie's perfume, I basically I've taken the sangria paella responses, and I guess I've generally thought more about eating outside and drinking outside within sort of a holiday context, and therefore I've gone for the likes of patchouli, cumin seed, mandarin, and rosemary with a bit of black pepper, and then with the sea, just to evoke that sort of slightly more outdoorsy vibe, we've got sea breeze fragrance oil. So they're the ones that I'm going to use. Because we've got so many fragrances here, I'm going to put 4 drops rather than 5 drops of each one in, and that should equate to around 5% of fragrance oil. 5% of overall fragrance. That's 4. Q and C 4. Ooh. Black pepper 4. Black pepper being my favourite scent, I think. My favourite essential oil. I was saying yesterday, I have to be quite careful sometimes because I like black pepper so much that I sort of use it in kind of everything, or I think about using it in everything. And sometimes it's about sort of being a bit disciplined and realizing it's not, the thing to use. But I think in this situation, it is kind of synonymous with eating and drinking is black pepper. 4 of the sea breeze. 4 of the mandarin. Ooh. I think I put 5 of mandarin in, but that's okay. And 4 of the rosemary as well. There we are, that's them in. And as before, it's 30ml of perfume as alcohol for Jamie's perfume. Ooh. There we are, just going into the bottle directly. Jamie, that's your perfume created. Quick shake. And a label, of course. Ooh, and on the floor. And then writing down the ingredients too. Quite a few ingredients for James. I think the industry standard is around about 5 or 6 different oils per perfume, different ingredients per perfume. Obviously, in this space here, we don't have to do that at all. We could just use 1, or we could use, although that wouldn't be a particularly coherent fragrance because it wouldn't have the base note, middle note, top note. But we could have, a couple of fragrances, or we could have 20 of them. It doesn't matter too much. It's all about responding to the 3 words given. There is Jamie's perfume created. Jamie, there you go, sir. I hope to see you soon. Jamie's a friend of mine, and we've not seen each other for a while. So maybe one day we can go and I can give you the perfume, perhaps. Go somewhere. There we go. So the next perfumes I'm going to make are at 11 o'clock. So we've got a few minutes, as ever, to wait around until 11. Because it's 56 minutes past 10 right now. As before, we wait until exactly 11 because the participant might want to see the perfume getting made live, and we don't want to make it too early in case they miss it. So 4 minutes, if anybody wants to ask me anything in that time, they can. Otherwise, I'll probably start rambling on about something that I can see on this desk or something. What have we got? I'll get the bottle out. Ready? I've got some perfume. I've got some alcohol gel. Nothing to do really with coronavirus, as we're just indoors. But what happens is handling the essential oils, fragrance oils, gets a little bit potent on my hands sometimes. So it's nice to sort of just clean them a little bit before continuing. That's something I practice sort of anyway, even before coronavirus hit. So I've had some alcohol gel, some small little bits of alcohol gel, and indeed perfume is alcohol, sort of does a similar job. Anyway, there we are. 3 quite varied perfumes today that I've made, which is good. 3 more to go in this session, and there's obviously a session from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock, as well as this session, which lasts. This session lasts until midday. Thank you for anybody that's joining us or that has joined us during the live event. Of course, these videos will be available on my YouTube channel as well after the event. Looking forward to being able to stage exhibitions, festivals, etc. sort of in real life, physically soon. Although it must be said, I've enjoyed doing the this particular project. It was going to be actually physically in Bridlington in May last year, delivering a very similar project about holidays and words associated with holidays. But what's been actually quite nice about doing it online is that it's sort of opened it out to everybody rather than people who are physically in Bridlington. So, you know, there's advantages to these things. It's meant that more, I suppose, people could engage with the process a little bit more. So, so that's been nice. Obviously, yeah, it's been a good project to do. I'm glad that it's been something that we've managed to do, and it's thanks to ArtWaves. Oh, in fact, ArtWaves have just got in touch and said, "These are so amazing. Thanks for being part of ArtWaves." Well, you're welcome, ArtWaves Festival. It's been really good to be involved. I've really enjoyed delivering the project, and it's been great. As I said previously, thank you indeed for organising it and for being so organised in delivering it online. That's been really great, and it's been great to be involved and to be part of ArtWaves. So thank you very much to you too. It is now 11 o'clock, which means it is the 4th perfume of the day time. We have the participant for this particular perfume is Ann Barrass, who I know pretty well. She's exhibited in some of our open call exhibitions. By that I mean me and my wife Sharon. We run an arts initiative called Frontier, and we deliver open call sort of shows. And Anne's been in a fair few of them because we like Anne's work and we like Anne. So hi Anne, if you're watching. Your 3 responses, your 3 words that you have provided are train, wine, and wonder. So train, wine, and wonder are the 3 words that I need to think about to create the perfume. As I said earlier, I've not really looked at these responses because I wanted to be quite spontaneous and I wanted it to be quite intuitive, which is kind of a bit counterintuitive, really, because normally what I do is when I make a perfume, I sort of think about it quite a lot, and think in a considered way, and sort of arrive at a perfume in that manner. So it's a bit different to just sort of go full steam ahead and think, you know, about a perfume and try and deliver it within 10 minutes or so. But it's a good challenge. You know, it's a challenge that I've embraced over the last couple of days, and I continue to embrace up until ArtWaves or Scented Souvenirs has finished. Anyway, train, wine, and wonder. So intuitively, I sort of think about travel with those particular words, especially, you know, train and wonder. And then when I think about something like travel, I sort of think about sort of, I guess, how travel makes me feel, and also some of the ingredients that we've got here that involve travel in some way. For example, something like lavender, which I have, is historically been used for the purposes of travel because it has sort of certain qualities to it, sort of like antiseptic qualities to it that make it a useful sort of thing to pack whilst you're traveling. So maybe in an abstract way, that's something that I could use in Anne's perfume. We've also got wonder. So again, with wonder, it's more about how the word wonder, how it makes you sort of feel, what it makes you think about. And it makes you think about sort of walking around, really, sort of being outdoors, sort of exploring sort of slightly unfamiliar sort of places. So I wonder if, based on what I've just said there, it sounds like something like lavender is a good idea because it's sort of evocative of the idea of sort of traveling around and wandering around. So I'll just pop lavender there, and you know, I may use it. I probably will use it, but I don't want to commit just yet, just in case. So train, wine, wonder. Again, wine, similar to Jamie's sangria response. It's more about kind of how wine within the context of holidays makes you sort of feel, and I guess it's more about being relaxed, about being in the sun, about being in, you know, enjoying yourself, that kind of thing. So maybe I'll go down that route rather than be literal about it. Saying that, I used to have a wine fragrance oil actually, but I don't think I have that anymore. I must have used it. Yeah, I've used that. Anyway, let's think. Wine. I mean, we do have, of course, the sort of fruity fragrances, which can be used to sort of evoke the idea of drinking and, you know, drinking wine, that kind of thing. We've got juniper berry, which obviously is gin rather than wine, but we do have things like that. I'm just looking around just to see if I've got anything that is a bit more sort of literally about wine. I might not have. Geranium, sage. I've got quite a few. Lime, cumin seed. Cumin seed should be down here. Bergamot. I've got quite a few. Bitter orange. I quite like bitter orange. Sage, clove bud. So we've got some berries and we've got some sort of fruits here, which when you think about something like wine, you know, those kind of ingredients come up to the fore. So I'm going to use pimento berry and bitter orange, and I think that combination is just it's more evocative of the idea of sort of being outside and drinking. So I'll use those. I'll use lavender to sort of evoke the idea of travel, which is sort of found within the train and the wandering. And that leaves a base note that I could do with. And it's going to be quite tricky, this, because I've already got sort of 3 oils that I like here. And I need to, you know, in order to make a coherent perfume, I would like to use a base note as well. So it's trying to find something that sort of complements what we've got here, I guess. wonder exploring. So what we could do, I guess we could go down the route of finding quite a tropical fragrance or quite tropical oil, and then that might just sort of evoke the idea of travel and of wonderment and that kind of thing. We've got a sandalwood, which is from Haiti, so it's obviously it's travelled, and maybe that the fact that it's sort of physically quite a distant sort of country perhaps evokes the idea of sort of wonderment and travel and things like that. Incidentally, the oils that I use, even if they're from sort of different countries, they're always sustainable oils that I've got. I just thought I'd mention that to you. So a slightly abstract fragrance that I'm going to make for Anne. We've got sandalwood, lavender, pimento berry, and bitter orange. The sandalwood, because it's from Haiti, it's kind of exotic, I guess, and sort of evokes that idea of travel. Lavender also evokes the idea of sort of traveling. And then we've got pimento berry and bitter orange, which combined sort of have that evocation of being outside and drinking and having wine and enjoying yourself, that kind of thing. So slightly abstract response. I'm going to create the perfume now. And we start with the sandalwood. And as before, we're going to just pop 5 drops of each note, 5 drops of each fragrance into the bottle. The sandalwood is very viscous, is that the word? It's quite a thick sort of oil. Sandalwood, of course, is quite a classic fragrance, especially in sort of men's perfume. You find it quite prominently in men's perfume, but it's not by no means only a masculine fragrance or anything like that. Similar to something like lavender. Lavender is actually quite a historically used for male fragrances. These days, it's probably more of a unisex thing, or even more of a female thing. 5 lavenders going in. Oh, pimento berry and bitter orange, 5 of each, just to give that sort of flavour of being of enjoying a drink outside. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we've got the bitter orange, just a slightly more savoury sort of orange compared to the sweet orange, and I think that's useful for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was quick. Slightly more relevant than any other sort of orange, I believe, or any other fruit. So we have the sandalwood, pimento berry, lavender, bitter orange for Anne. That's the fragrance, and as ever, we're going to pop the old perfumer's alcohol, 30 ml, into the bottle to dilute. Ooh. And I've spilt some perfumer's alcohol everywhere, which is not ideal, but hey ho. So 30 ml going into the bottle. There we go. That perfumer's alcohol's got everywhere. Yeah. So there we go, Anne. That's your perfume made. The sandalwood, pimento berry, lavender, bitter orange, to evoke the 3 responses that you gave me there. And as before, I'm going to pop the old label on it. So it's Ann Barrass. We've got sandalwood, pimento berry, lavender, and bitter orange. Excellent. That is the next perfume done. 2 more to go in this session, which lasts until midday, of course. And there we are. Getting quite a collection of perfumes here now. And I'll just pop these back. Lavender. So the next perfume I'm going to make is from a participant, Nick. Now I realised Nick, I believe, is Anne's partner. And I can't remember if they're married or not, or anything like that. So it might be Nick Barrass. It might not be Nick Barrass, but it's Anne's partner, Nick. So hi to you, Nick. Sorry for just not knowing about that. I sort of forgot to sort of ask, really. But anyway, Nick, hi, and thank you very much for your response, which was sun, fun, and chill out. So sun, fun, and chill out. Very sort of, like when I say sun, fun, and chill out, I instantly just think of being sort of happy and sort of joyous within my sort of own surroundings, which is obviously evocative of a holiday. And it makes me think quite intuitively of sort of fragrances from the context of aromatherapy, which sort of spark sort of happiness and joy and relaxation in people. Interesting one, this. I've just read it and I've sort of immediately thought about exactly what I want to sort of do. I'm going to use, for the base note, I'm going to use sort of frankincense, which is sort of in response to the chill out sort of section of what you said, because it's quite from the context of aromatherapy, it is quite relaxing and quite sort of grounding, and just makes you sort of feel sort of content. I believe it is the sort of line, and it's a great smell. It's one of my favourite sort of scents to use. So I will very much use the frankincense. I use lavender as well, because not only lavender is kind of from the context of aromatherapy, quite a relaxing scent. Also, I think it's quite nice to contain something that Anne's has also got in. So I'll use frankincense and lavender, definitely. And then the fun and sun, let's use some fruity sort of fragrances. So let's use sweet orange. That's really evocative of sort of sun and fun, because it's sort of from the context of aromatherapy. Again, it's quite a joyous sort of scent, but also it is the kind of scent that you can imagine in sort of a holiday sort of environment. So sweet orange, maybe something like bergamot, which I've not used yet. Quite a sort of a slightly more subtle sort of fruity fragrance, but again, it's that idea of sort of contentment within the holiday sort of environment that I'm going for there. So yeah, I've sort of managed to. There's an interesting response there, because I've managed to. I've thought about it quite quickly and quite intuitively. Sort of, I knew what I wanted to do, kind of immediately there. So we've got the frankincense and the lavender, which is sort of evokes the idea of being chilled out, being relaxed within sort of that holiday sort of environment. And then we've got sun and fun, which is sort of represented by the sweet orange and the bergamot, sort of alluding to the idea of being on holiday and that general sort of happiness that comes with that. So very quick response from me there, but sometimes that's the way these things go. So let's make the perfume for Nick. The scales are broken then, but they're okay. So we'll start with the frankincense, the one that represents being relaxed and chilled out. And we're going to put 5 drops in. Lavender is next. And we're going to have 5 drops of lavender. Sweet orange, 5 drops. Five drops of bergamot. So there we go. That's the Nick. That is the overall fragrance created there. We are now going to add the perfume as alcohol as previous, as always. And it's 30 ml. And that just goes directly into the bottle. Quick shake. As before, generally you shake for a good few minutes, but for the purposes of this, I'll give it just a quick shake and shake them off camera because it's a rather dull process, honestly. Give a quick wipe because I think I've got a bit of perfume as alcohol on it. And Nick, that is your perfume created. Thank you very much for your response. I will put a label on your fragrance. And then it's the ingredients too. Splendid, done. And Nick, your fragrances are created. Hope to see you both soon when we're able to do so. Maybe I can gift you the fragrance. I've just put Nick on there just in case that isn't the correct surname. But yes, hopefully see you at some point when we're allowed out to play again. And as ever, I'm popping these up here. Excuse me. And that is Nick and Anne's perfumes made. Fantastic. Thank you for your responses. We actually have now got 25 minutes until the final perfume of the session is going to be made. So if anybody has any questions, or if anybody would like to have a perfume of their own sort of created, then feel free to comment, or indeed, I'll just see if anybody has got in touch via Facebook, which can happen. Let's have a look. Nothing as yet, I don't think. No, that's okay. No problem. No problem. So, like I say, a quarter to 12 is the next perfume that I'm going to make. It is now 11:22, so we have a little bit of time in between then and now. Feel free to ask me anything. Of course, we're waiting until 11:45 exactly because the participant may want to see the perfume being made. So we are going to leave it a little bit of time until they can come on, potentially. So that's fine. So I suppose I use this opportunity to talk a bit about my own sort of work and why perfume and why sort of I got into the perfume making sort of process. I've been using perfume in my work for about 6 or 7 years now. The project initially began with a residency here in Sheffield that looked at portraits, specifically whether perfumery could accommodate the idea of portraiture. And basically it involved me sort of creating portraits using perfumery based on artists specifically, and artists' responses to the idea of well, basically me asking them why they made art and their sort of behaviours, processes that went into making art, and their response there I'd use to create a perfume that sort of captured the sort of their essence, if you like. So to give sort of a basic example of how that might sort of pan out, if an artist got in touch and said that they made art because it makes them feel sort of happy, then I could use fragrances that are said to induce happiness in people, rather like how we've created some of the perfumes here today. So things like sort of fruity sort of fragrances are said to induce happiness in people from that sort of aromatherapy context. So they are fragrances that I would sort of put into the perfume in order to sort of capture the essence of that sort of artist's sort of persona. And then these perfumes would be sort of exhibited in sort of contemporary art spaces, because the sort of aim was to sort of show that perfume could be very much a creative arts, contemporary art sort of discipline, similar to how painting, sculpture, printmaking, etc. Are all considered artistic disciplines. Perfumery is almost sort of on the periphery of that. It's sort of a craft that people sort of respect, and it has this sort of history to it, but it's very sort of underutilized as a sort of contemporary art medium. So that was kind of the reason why I embarked on the residency, to sort of, I guess, prove, if you like, that it's absolutely a viable thing to use. And that residency was in 2016, 2015, 2016. So, a fair few years ago now. But since then, the idea of perfume being an artistic medium and therefore something that I could exhibit in contemporary art spaces has always been there. And as such, I've exhibited in a fair few spaces around the UK and a little bit internationally as well over the last sort of 6 or 7 years. Obviously, that was all going ahead at a good pace, and then coronavirus sort of hit, which meant that I had to I didn't have to stop as such, but I sort of had to reevaluate what I was doing, because the exhibitions that I put on with perfume are generally very interactive. People can pick up the perfumes, spray them around, talk to their friends about it, pass them around, and all this kind of thing. And obviously, such interactions sort of had to stop whilst coronavirus is with us. So that made me sort of reevaluate what I could do with perfume making, and effectively I've not done an awful lot more with it since coronavirus hit. I did do a video series on YouTube called Plague for Plague's Sake, which looked at plague cures, and it sort of saw me create plague cures, historical plague cures, using sort of perfume. So you could take a look at that if you wanted to. A good series. I enjoyed making the series. It was sort of made out of necessity, really, more than anything else, because I just wanted to make something during coronavirus, and that was sort of what I came up with, something that was sort of relevant to the time, that again sort of showed perfume's capacity for that sort of for history and narrative and storytelling and medicine and things like that. And then since then, I've not done a huge amount with it, other than Scented Souvenirs. This particular project, which I am enjoying doing. In the future, I can imagine Perfumer's Practice, which is kind of the overall sort of what I call the project, Perfumer's Practice. I can imagine that coming back in some capacity, although I feel like there will be something of a reluctance from an audience to interact with contemporary art works, even into the latter half of this year. Even if we're out of lockdowns and out of social distancing and all this kind of thing, I still think there will be a certain reluctance there to handle stuff. And as such, I'm in the sort of initial stages of developing a new project called Cleanse, which looks at soap making rather than perfume making. Soap making also has a sort of history and a craft to it, not dissimilar to perfumery. And the idea is, with Cleanse, is that I'm going to present a number of soaps within a contemporary art sort of space, and each soap is going to have a carved poem on it that is influenced by participants' response to their coronavirus experience. So similar to how this project, I'm asking for people to submit 3 words about holidays. With Cleanse, I'm asking for participants to just a sentence or 2 or 3 about their sort of coronavirus experience. So experience of coronavirus in general, if they've had it, or experience of lockdown, experience of 2020 in general, positive or negative. It doesn't have to be necessarily a negative thing. There is positive aspects of what's happening, and then once they've submitted their sentence or 2 or paragraph, I will take that paragraph and from it I will devise sort of a poem that sort of captures that paragraph and sort of how it makes me feel and how it makes the participant feel and that kind of thing. The soaps will then be exhibited sort of quite formally within an exhibition, within a contemporary exhibition sort of space, and the space will be sort of embellished with sort of paintings that sort of depict the project as well. I will sort of create a catalogue with all the poems in, so you don't have to just read it through the carved soap. It's a new way of sort of delivering my exhibitions in a manner that means that people aren't physically touching the what they've got in front of them, but also it has that kind of idea that sort of soap making and scent in general, because the soaps are going to be scented. The idea that soap and scent have this sort of contemporary art capacity is something that's quite similar to what I'm doing with my with perfume. So it's sort of the same but different, I guess, is a good way of looking at it. But that's going to be that's called Cleanse, and it's a project that I'm in the sort of the first stages of. Poetry being something that I sort of dip in and out of every now and again. I sort of do it as a bit of a hobbyist sort of poet, really. So it'd be quite nice to sort of turn that into something a little bit more, I guess, formal, a little bit more sort of professional, I suppose, more of an artistic sort of endeavour rather than a hobbyist sort of endeavour. So that's a thing. That's something that I'm going to do in 2021 for the remainder of. I might try and do something else with Scented Souvenirs. Actually, it's been a fun project to undertake. So maybe we can do something with more live sessions or things like that. Because it seems to have captured people's imagination to an extent, which is always good. And I do quite enjoy the participatory sort of element of all my work, really. My work involves other people quite a lot. So it's been good to sort of reacquaint myself with all that. Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know if that was interesting or illuminating in any way, but that's kind of me and my sort of work, really. Yeah. So it's now 32 minutes past 11. We've still got another six or seven. We've got another 11 or 12 minutes to go until the final perfume of the session is going to start being made. Again, I'm waiting until 11:45 specifically because the participant who's given me the response might want to see live me making the perfume, so I don't want to do it too early, as it were. So if anybody has any questions or thoughts, feel free to drop me a live chat. If they want me to make a perfume in situ right now, then they can offer 3 words and I can do that. Otherwise, we will create the 11:45 perfume in 12 minutes time. I'll just check on the Facebook to see if anybody's said anything through Facebook rather than through the live chat, which can happen. No, can't see anything. Nope, nothing there, so that's fine. We've got a live chat now that's from Sharon Mosbeck, and it says, do you think your bias in scents you select to use the most in your perfumes? Do you think your bias in the scents you select to use most in the perfumes? Yeah, I mean, I do definitely have but it's quite difficult. I try not to have a bias, but there are, scents that specifically, that I just like the most, and it's always a case of trying to be quite disciplined and not just use them because I like them, but use scents because they're relevant to the responses that I receive or the project that I'm working on. So, I mean, we've got things like, black pepper, lavender, patchouli, no, not patchouli so much, sandalwood, and then things like spearmints and peppermints that I like. I really like the smell of. But certainly with things like peppermint, it doesn't go with everything. So I need to sort of try and just be quite disciplined and not use those kind of fragrances just because I want to, but use them because they're relevant. And it can be quite difficult, but it's just just a case of trying to just not use them. Most of the time it's quite easy to find sort of alternatives or find different sort of routes in order to create a specific perfume. But I think discipline in general is quite an important sort of thing that I need to be aware of when I'm making perfumes, because I do see myself as an artist rather than a perfume maker, and by that I sort of mean I'm sort of on the outside of the perfume industry as an artist, sort of looking into it. But I think I'm always aware that scent in art can be quite a gimmicky sort of thing, and I always try and be quite true to the process of creating eau de toilette fragrances, based on industry standards, which I've sort of found from talking to industry professionals and researching in order to achieve coherent eau de toilette fragrances. I think, once you've got that sort of discipline sort of down, the perfumes become coherent, and therefore your project becomes sort of more integrity, I think. And that's sort of something that I'm quite aware of needing to do in my work, because I don't want the the work to be too gimmicky, because I think, what I'm saying about perfume, which is that, it does hold these sort of contemporary art sort of concepts, and you can use it to, look at portraiture and symbolism and narrative, and, storytelling, all this kind of stuff. I think it's, an important thing to talk about, actually, because it gives people a new medium that they can play with, a new sort of discipline that they can find joy in and utilize in their own way. And I do think perfume, potentially could be for everyone. I think it's a process. I wouldn't say it's necessarily easy, but it's certainly very fun, and certainly something that gives people a bit of creative sort of agency and a bit of creativity that they might not realize that they've had. So it can be quite a powerful thing to sort of bring those people together. That's sort of the more sort of high end sort of reason why I want to make the perfumes, why I want to use perfume in my sort of work. And I think just remaining disciplined and remaining respectful to the perfume making process it is important for those reasons, really. So yeah, that's kind of a bit about why I make perfumes, and a bit about why I like making perfumes. But I do very much see myself as an artist rather than a perfume maker. And I don't think I ever really want to get into being too much of a master sort of perfumer, because I like the sort of the standpoint that I'm at. I like being sort of outside of that industry, because it gives me a bit of freedom. I think it gives me a bit of creative sort of freedom. I'm not tied to having to make the perfumes be, branded in certain ways or very, very precise in certain ways for audiences and for customers. I can play a bit loose and fast, and I can have a bit of fun, and I feel quite liberated in the sort of position that I'm in. We have another question here from Christopher. Is that Chris? I think it's Chris Oliver, isn't it? If it is, hi. Your perfume is here somewhere. If it's not, then apologies. Your question, I guess scent can really influence your painting. I know sound does in mine. Must try and develop scent in response. Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's obviously with my work, it's very much sort of utilizing a different sense to what you might expect. But they're all obviously linked in their own way. Certainly scent and taste are very linked in a very sort of intertwined sort of way. But of course, everything's linked to the brain, and the brain is what is what allows you to utilize the five senses. So there's all a huge sort of interwoven sort of structure to my work, and to everybody's work potentially. And yeah, it can influence painting. Generally, with my exhibitions, I sort of the paintings that I make, or the visual sort of embellishments that I use, I try and I make for a few reasons. One of them is because I want there to be some sort of visual sort of I want there to be something visual there that I can use to promote the work, actually, because I find something visual very useful for sort of advertising, but also I use them to sort of offer a bit of a visual description of what's going on, really. I mean, to give the example of what I've made here, I mean, it is quite a literal sort of description of what I'm doing with my work, in that, it is a bottle, so, a perfume, potentially a perfume bottle, and inside it is something that depicts sort of a holiday sort of destination. It's loosely based on Bridlington, is the picture here, with a few embellishments. So the idea that I can capture the essence of a holiday within a perfume bottle is kind of what I'm doing here, in quite a literal sort of way. And I think that's kind of useful because it acts as a description of what I'm doing. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at currently with the paintings that I make. Traditionally, I am a painter. I started my career, I guess, as a painter. Eventually, I sort of got into painting or certainly looking at still life works and trying to think about new ways of creating still life. And I came up with this kind of idea that you could, the elements within still life, say like an apple, you could turn into a material that you could use to continue to create works. It was this kind of like deconstructing still life works. So I started making paints using food. And the idea of that was that I could, the paint would sort of exist as being a sort of work of art and a material sort of at the same time. So it was quite a sort of conceptual sort of project that I got, that I embarked on. And eventually, you know, I was using these paints as food and making sort of paintings using the food. And eventually I kind of started thinking that it was a little bit ill-disciplined and that I wanted something that that sort of captured the scent of the food rather than the visual sort of elements of the food. And that's sort of where I sort of embarked upon the idea of perfumery, because I knew it had this sort of craft behind it that I could sort of utilize. So, you know, I started painting, and then that became about paint specifically, and then that became about perfume making. So I had this kind of sort of thread, I guess, through my works. But you know, I still do enjoy painting, and I still do keep my hand in with the whole painting thing from time to time. So it is now 43 minutes past 11, so we've got a few minutes to go still until we will make the final perfume of the session. Thank you for everyone that's joining me today. Thank you for everyone that's joined me today. We've got this session, of course, until midday, and then we've got a second session from 1 till 3 today as well, which will see me create about 4 or 5 more perfumes. I'll just pick up the things that I just dropped. I'll take out the old bottle ready. Get prepared. Coming up now to 11:45, which is when I'll start making the perfume. Again, I've not looked at the response that I've received from the next participant all that much, just a quick glance. I've not thought about it much because I want to retain a certain sort of spontaneity to the perfume that I'm going to make for the participant, as would have been the case in ArtWaves should it have been a physical festival. It is now 11:45, so we will proceed with the final perfume of the session. The participant for this particular perfume is Henk Littlewood, who is a well, artist. I think it's fair to say artist, furniture maker who we've worked with in the past, and you know, may well continue to do so at some point. Hello, Henk, if you're watching. Thank you for your response to my Scented Souvenirs call out, I suppose. The 3 words that Henk has provided to us are father, laughter, and Voyager. Now Voyager's a wine, I believe, isn't it? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So father, Voyager, laughter. So 3 words there. Again, 3 words that we've not seen as yet. Still quite amazed by the varied responses we've received so far. So father, Voyager, laughter. Intuitively, what I want to do with those 3 words is think about how those 3 words make you feel, especially within the context of perfume making. And obviously, you've got laughter, so you've got that sort of that joyous sort of element coming through, and therefore, from the context of aromatherapy, you could start using again sort of fruity fragrances that sort of evoke joy. So as such, we will just get those out and put them next to us to see if they'll work. We've got lemon and orange, two very sort of happiness-inducing scents there. We've also got father, so that's obviously a human element. Whenever I think about sort of human elements within the work, I tend to my mind turns to sort of things like white musk, which is quite kind of evocative of sort of just people in general. I think it's got kind of a very sort of I don't know what's the word for it really. Kind of it's quite a intuitively I want to say sweaty, but it's not really sweaty. It's kind of like it's got a kind of I don't know, kind of a warm, kind of human sort of quality to it in some capacity. Again, quite a difficult one to explain, but I think I do tend to use musk quite a lot whenever I'm trying to depict sort of people in general. I think it's there's a certain sort of fluidity, certain sort of warmth to it that makes me reminds me personally, you know, of people in general, and therefore I think it's a useful sort of a base for Henk's particular perfume, I believe. Voyager, now that I was going to quickly look at, it is definitely a wine, isn't it? That Voyager thing. Let's just have a quick check. Yeah, so it's a wine. It's a Spanish sort of wine. I don't want to look too much at it. I just want to make sure. Yeah, okay. So it looks like a red wine. Okay, that's cool. So obviously similar to what we had with Anne's and Jamie's perfume that I made, is potentially it's about how that kind of situation makes you feel, how drinking wine in a holiday context, you know, with your father when you're whilst laughing, you know, how that makes you feel. And it makes you feel, I assume, very sort of relaxed, very content, maybe quite grounded, maybe quite just happy to be in the surroundings that you're in at the moment. And as such, we will potentially look at trying to find scents that make you feel sort of content and grounded. Again, I'm sort of thinking about lavender, which is always something that I go to. So maybe I'll try not using lavender this time, because I think I used it for a few other fragrances, perfumes before. I mean, I will get it out because, you know, it is something that I thought about there. Maybe something like honeysuckle, which always reminds me of, you know, it's quite a happy but also quite sort of grounded sort of scent, you know, from that context of aromatherapy. It's quite a calming, that feeling of sort of contentment, I think, is quite nice, quite a neat sort of way of responding to Henk's response there. So what have we got so far? We've got white musk and lavender, honeysuckle, sweet orange, lemon, and tangerine. Have we? Did I put those there? Oh yes, there for the happiness, not the laughter. Okay, so we've got the sweet orange, lemon, and tangerine to sort of evoke that feeling of happiness, of joy. Then we've got honeysuckle and lavender, which are more sort of contented and certainly sort of that's how you potentially feel in the context of, you know, drinking wine on holiday. And then we've got white musk, which is symbolic of the father sort of response that Henk has provided there. So a slightly abstract way of creating Henk's perfume, but, you know, nothing wrong with that at all. And again, it's, you know, it's very intuitive. With other projects, I might look at that response and go away and think a little bit more about it, and, you know, and be a bit more considered with it. But here, you know, we are doing quite a quick fire sort of perfume making, intuitive. How do I feel about it? You know, in the moment sort of experience. So let's run with that. Let's go with the with what I've got here. So the first thing we're going to put in is the musk, and we're going to put 5 drops in. Actually, we've got quite a lot of fragrances here, so we'll put 4 drops in rather than 5 of each one. Musk, of course, being symbolic of the father response that Henk has provided. And then the honeysuckle, that just to give that sort of feeling of contentment within the response that was received. 4 drops of honeysuckle. Fantastic. And then 4 drops of lavender. Again, it's that that sort of contentment, feeling happy, drinking, laughing with your father on holiday. And it's not, you know, it's about how you feel rather than the words in a literal sense. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in response to the idea of laughter and happiness and joy, we've got sweet orange, lemon, tangerine, some happy, uplifting, fresh fragrances at the top of the perfume. 4 drops of each note, 4 drops of each fragrance. I keep saying 4 drops of each note. 1, 2, 3, 4 of that. 4 of lemon. 4 of tangerine. Tangerine being a slightly more exotic sort of fruit, I guess, which again is evocative of holidays. There we go. So that's again, we're trying to make an eau de toilette. We're trying to create a fragrance which is 5% overall fragrance to 95% carrier, and that's what we've done here. So we need to put 30 ml of the perfume as alcohol into the bottle. And that is the fragrance created effectively. Again, it's the old put the top on and give it a shake situation. 2-minute shake normally, but just a quick shake for demonstration purposes. And finally, last but not least, it's the label. And it's Henk Littlewood. And then the ingredients. Tangerine. And orange. Okay, so that's done. And that is the final perfume of the day, effectively. Final perfume of the session, rather. The session ends at midday, so we have got 5 more minutes. So if anybody feels like giving me 3 words to do with holidays in the next 5 minutes, I could potentially rustle up a perfume. Henk, apologies, I put that on in an incredibly wonky way, but that is your perfume, sir. With a response to your response of the 3 words to do with holidays. Honeysuckle. Quick tidy up before the afternoon session, of course. And that's your lot. Thanks so much for everybody that's joined me in this morning session. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed the perfume making process, and indeed, if you were one of the participants, I hope you enjoyed seeing your perfume being made before your eyes. Of course, this is going to be online on my YouTube channel, so if you've missed the live session, people can still watch it. But thank you very much, of course, for the live participants and the chat and the the viewers and all that kind of stuff. Thanks very much. Really appreciate you doing that. It's been great. It's been good fun. Be back, of course, in an hour's time, 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock, for the remaining perfumes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get through in the afternoon session. But as ever, if you join me in the afternoon session, you can chat and you can ask me to make a perfume there and then. But for now, I think it's only 1 minute to go until midday, so I think it's probably worth saying goodbye, and thank you very much once again, and hopefully I'll see you at 1 o'clock. Bye for now.